Authentic African radio swag. Fresh out the box. Homegrown radio. Ekaya. My home. Homegrown radio.
We got something recently from the president, and we had raised the issue of this museum, that it's very important, not only for now, but for generations to come. It's important that it's supported. And we're able to get something, and that something, we said, Hip Hop Museum is the thing to go to. We need to put our money where our mouth is, to hip hop. In fact, you are not the only beneficiary this time around, because it wasn't very big kind of cake we got this time around. It was 15 million rands. And we said District 6 in Cape Town should benefit because of who District 6 is. We also said the Pants Museum in KwaZulu-Natal. So it's the three of you who are sharing in this cake. Now, we, from the shores of Cape Town, with the formation of the Prophet of the City and Black Noise in the late 80s, the establishment of the Le Club in Johannesburg, today hip-hop is global, and in South Africa is an expression of identity. You can't miss the point of identity. Each and everyone who's talking about it. I hear, well, we accept the fact that the movement started in the US. We accept that fact. But we also say that it has all the traces of Africa. Even if you look at some of the pioneers of hip-hop, even how they decided to be known, going back to the roots. I must make a disclaimer here that Africa Bambaataa and the Universal Zulu Nation is one such. And that tells you, the disclaimer I'm making is what happened later with Africa Bambaataa. But the fact of the matter that the origins are very much linked to Africa. We have Nkosi here with us. Is a living example of how hip-hop has been close to ourselves as Africa, not only South Africa. Now, we have said that 2 million will be used here for job creation. And we're looking at 844 new jobs, but also the retention of the current staff of 20 members with this initiative here. And the type of jobs that will be created will be for researchers and hip-hop artists between the ages of 18 and 35, and those, in all intents and purposes, are youth or young people. My conclusion, I want to quote American hip-hop artist KRS-One, who was here, and he said, "Rap is what you do, hip-hop is what you live." Thank you very much.
Believe in the potential. Homegrown radio.
It is your boy Token Toby, aka Toby. I said it twice, so you know that I mean it. Look, guys, we're not here at Homegrown, but we are homegrown here at Newtown, based at the South African Hip Hop Museum. For something to happen and for it to be rocking and relevant, especially now, there's like blood, sweat, and tears. There's never success.
Like everything else, man.
Right.
I mean, for democracy to happen,
right?
I mean, on a change of regime, there's always, there's still battles, man. Like
Right.
if there were never battles, it's never worth fighting for. In every, like even in chemistry, when one thing changes another form, there needs to be some kind of, not violence, but some kind of sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like to turn water into steam. You need to boil it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Things don't just naturally happen.
Yeah.
Something has to happen. If you want eyes, you need to go through, rigorous conditions for it to turn into ice that you can use, you know what I mean? So the same thing with hip-hop. For it to get where it is now, sacrifices had to be made. It wasn't just a normal, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And unfortunately, the ones that spark, because I mean, when someone makes a cup of tea, you know what I mean? Everyone thinks of the cup and the tea, but never the fire that made that tea, that turned that water, you know what I mean? But you needed that fire, so you sit there and you enjoy the cup of tea, but you forget about the fire that gave you the tea. So it's always like that with cultures. Right. You know what I mean? That's why I never take offense to young people not knowing who I am. And that's a natural way of life, that fam, you know what I mean? Because if I was sitting here 30 years later and none of this was happening, I would have felt bad. If there was no Casper, if there was no Narcissi, you know what I mean? If there was no MT, I would feel bad, like, yo, Kanti, what were you fighting for? Right. But now when I sit here and I see all these kids doing these amazing things, I'm like, some of them I don't like the sound, but it's not about me. Some of them I think they're whack. I mean, in my era, they wouldn't have survived, a lot of them, you know what I mean? Right. But that's not for me to critique.
Authentic African radio swag. Fresh out the box. Homegrown radio. Ekaya. My home.
So Damani, the way I spell my name is Damani. It's a Yoruba name. Okay. Right? It means thoughtful.
Oh, Yoruba name. Okay. So Nigeria, right?
So if you spell it Domani, then that's an Italian name, and it means Domani means tomorrow in Italian. Okay. And I'm Damani, which means thoughtful in the Yoruba language.
Wow.
Fresh out the box.
I think Africa, right, is musically inclined, especially hip hop inclined as well.
Super.
Right? But then we put the US on a pedestal because the movement that's where it started. The movement and making it, a thing, right? For us, it was just music.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the contrast between the African hip hop and South African and US hip hop? Like how does it incorporate? How does it complement one another?
I mean, hip hop is born out of oppression. Once the government and once the laws are against us, where it almost feels like it's illegal to be black. You know what I'm saying? Right. So we'll never die, we'll never fall. So we come up with a culture that enables us to express ourselves and inspire, each other. Right. So it's not that like you guys are probably putting us on a pedestal, more so that like you see. We see ourselves in you, and you see us. You know what I'm saying? Right. So apartheid, going through that, and like you're looking for something to motivate you to feel good about yourself because being oppressed is depressing. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. So we exchange an energy. Right. Because we are the same people, really.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We just got different colonizers. Right. You know what I'm saying? So with that, as you guys in South Africa be inspired by American hip hop, here I am inspired by South African hip hop.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? There's no competition. There is just brothers and sisters expressing themselves against oppression.
Absolutely.
I mean that's the idea.
Homegrown radio.
What up? This is Damani Nkosi. I'm representing live from South Africa. I'm from Inglewood, California. Homegrown radio to the top. You know what I'm saying? Started from the bottom, end up at the top. You know what I'm saying? Homegrown. Peace and love.
Authentic African radio swag. Fresh out the box. Homegrown radio. Ekaya. My home.
DJ Switch.
You had to think about that one.
DJ, not even. I had to take a pause. Because
what to do, man?
All right, shout out to you for being here. Thank you for your time. Let's get it rocking. So I'm just gonna ask about the preservation of hip hop. How important is that? How do we preserve hip hop as a South African nation?
I mean, it's clear now to say the notion that hip hop is dead. We need these kind of things, But once again, like I've just been saying right now, is that hip hop is not dead. Right. And if you think you're gonna come and save hip hop, you can't save hip hop. It's gonna save you.
For
right?
Sure. Yes,
and the reason being is that it's put a lot of food on people's tables. It's helped a lot of people. Right. Preserving it is one way to keep it rich.
Right.
Knowing when you get into this culture, why you're here, what you're doing it for, and where you're going to with it. Because I mean, if you see people like Prophets of the City or Black Noise, a picture of Jabba or PRO, if you don't know those people, you need to find out. You better know, right? And I think, you know, when you understand why you're in this whole thing, you won't be here for a short time. You'll be here for a very long time. Even though, you know, our sphere, our realm is evolving, it will evolve. We're looking for the new, you know, torch bearer. We're looking for that torch bearer because as much as there's an OG carrying it, they can't carry it forever. You understand? So we need those new guys to come. We need the Nasticies. We need the Costa Teachers. We need the Aries, the MTs. We need them to take it further. But they also need to find out who they are in this. And if they're here for a short time, then they won't be. They're not the ones. They're not the chosen ones.
Homegrown Radio. Ekaya Grown Radio.
My name is Kiana, based on as Major Keys. We are live at the launch of the Hip Hop SA Museum. This is a space where all crafts and all inspiring things are happening, and I'm not alone. I am sitting with Mr. Selwyn Ngwenya today.
Yeah, man. It's more of a pre-launch of the South African Hip Hop Museum. Pioneering a new thing. What's great about it is it's one of the permanent museums that are going to live here forever. Not in the entire world do you get a hip-hop museum that is permanent. There are the ones that have popped up in different cities around the world, but in South Africa, one of a kind to be established, and we are very proud of what's happening today.
So Selwyn is exactly a hip hop legend, right?
Yeah,
can we talk a bit about your music, starting up as a young person? What was your music like in the hip hop compared to now? What is it like? What's the difference right now?
There isn't really much difference as far as human beings being able to tell their story. So hip hop is always about being able to tell your story, being able to expose your uniqueness, your intelligence, things that bother you, things you aspire to be. And one of the things that is predominant about hip hop, we always speak inspiration. We're not always trying to delve into being sad and stressed. It's very expressive and very future invested. I'm going to be this. I'm going to rise. Always positive minded. So that has been the same. The only difference between my type of hip hop and now is the mindset.
Homegrown Radio.
Not much of a challenge, but I don't do a lot of scrimmage, but we're just gonna have to put it on the palette, or should I say palace, because somehow, somewhere you gotta kick out the menace because sometimes rhymes just flow out the mind, but you just gotta make sure that your brain is not intertwined.
Dope stuff. Thank you so much.
Kind of sloppy and rusty, but it doesn't matter. Everything about integrity, everything about loyalty, everything about honor is what we used to ensure. I would never come up with a song knowing that there are other dope MCs, and I don't consult to say, do you think my stuff is fresh? To a point where if I'm in studio, and if you can look at what Kanye is doing, if you watch his YouTube, they're always saying he's very tough to work with because it will always make you rewrite your verse and other stuff. That's where I come from, because you needed to have that expertise, that environment to be able to make you be the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. This is Homegrown live at the Museum Africa. This is for the Hip Hop South Africa Museum pre-launch, right?
Yeah, man.
So this is about it. We really appreciate you, Selwyn.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate the hip hop legend, and that's about it. Signing out to you.
Peace.
Homegrown Radio. Ekaya, my home.